Hey everyone, I'm Jay Sokol, and welcome to Brazos Matters. Now here's a little trivia for you. There have been only 3 county judges in Brazos County since 1978. Now I had to ask a friend who's been around here longer than me to verify it, but it's right. Can you name them? It's Dick Holmgreen, Al Jones, and Duane Peters. And Duane Peters is indeed the current Brazos County Judge. It's an office he was first elected to in 2010, so that means he's in his 4th term right now. The duties of someone in this position can vary from county to county, but the main responsibilities for each county judge in Texas is presiding over the commissioner's court, playing a leadership role in developing the county's budget, and having deep involvement with emergency management whenever there's a major crisis or a disaster. And Peters is part of all those in Brazos County. He certainly has plenty going on right now, but he still made some time for us. Judge Peters, thanks for joining me on Brazos Matters.
Thanks for inviting me, Jay.
Of course. We've known each other a long time, but time is fuzzy to me. So tell me, how long have you been county judge? How long were you on the commissioner's court? What has that career been?
So I first ran for constable in 1992 and took office in January of 93.
Okay.
I was in that position for 10 years, but in 2002 I ran for commissioner and ended up winning that when I took office as commissioner in January of 2003. Then I ran for county judge in 2010 and took office course in January of 2011.
What has that learning curve been like from constable to county judge?
Well, I will tell you, I think that's probably what kind of made me what I am. I mean, I started out on the constable side, which then I had to deal with the court, for budgets and all those sorts of things. So I kind of know where what I'd say the other side, the court side is the budget side, and we deal with that kind of stuff all the time. Mm-hmm. But I also know what it's like to be on the department head elected official side requesting all those things. So it's really, I think it's been it's given me an advantage all these years to have had that experience. And I mean, I've enjoyed all of it, but I've been happy to have been able to spend that kind of time. What
are some things that you didn't know about the budget side of things when you were constable that you learned when you became a commissioner?
Well, I mean, while I was a commissioner, I was commissioner of Precinct 2, but even when I came in, I always tried to look at countywide. I mean, I didn't just focus on, what's best for Precinct 2.
Right.
I mean, I did try to, get things for Precinct 2, but I always tried to look at the whole county. When I was constable, I was certainly focused on my constable office, which at the time it started out as Precinct 4. They changed precincts my last 2 years as constable and squeezed down and just made it 4 constables instead of, there were 6 of us, I think, at that time. And so they squeezed it down. I became constable Precinct 2 the last year or two of my career there. But I understood. I got the understanding of how all the requests we make. But I was requesting as constable. I was requesting for my office, and I really hadn't looked at, what about everybody else is asking for all of those kinds of needs and stuff. And so, I'd be a little aggravated, that I couldn't get what I felt like I needed. But, once I was on the court and then I'm looking at the whole budget, then you look at it from a different perspective.
Oh, no doubt. Because if you're increasing things over here, you may be reducing things over there.
That's exactly right.
Those are hard decisions.
Yeah.
So I know that you and the Commissioner's Court have been extremely busy. We're recording this. You and I are talking towards the end of June, and by the time this runs, there will undoubtedly be additional decisions and activities of the court. But one of the things that I believe you guys have been talking about are uses for American Rescue Plan Act funds. And I think you have a little over $44 million in total funding available and are working through proposed allocations of that. And if I'm not mistaken, the biggest allocation right now in front of the court is for a medical examiner's office. Is that right?
That's correct.
Talk to me about the need and the kinds of discussions you're having about a medical examiner's office.
Okay, so we took a look at a medical examiner's office back in 2014. Actually, we were talking at the COG about it and looking at regional potentially, and we had a study done at that time looking at what really the needs are, and then especially locally in our region. But then, you've got to try to make that thing operate, and where we might be able to draw business, if you will, from other counties that may need autopsies done. And it looked like, at least at that time, that potentially it would work. I mean, we felt like we had a need for it. Currently, JPs do inquests. I mean, and you get elected to a JP and may have zero knowledge of murders or anything to do with deaths, and yet you're supposed to make rulings on what was the cause of death. And so the size we are, we felt like it was probably time we needed to look at it. But it takes money. No matter what we talk about, it's always money, and that's really the limiting factor.
Yeah.
So when this ARPA money became available, and you're right, it's about $44 million. Close to $2 million of it is going to go for the administration side from the folks consultants that we hired. But so we've got about $42 million. And right now we have, in that bucket, if you will, we plugged about $24 million in for a medical examiner's office. And as we work through this particular medical examiner's office, it looked like that might be enough money, but with the cost of everything, I'm not sure that $24 million is going to get it done. We really won't find that out until we're able to. We're working on right now. We had an RFQ for a architect to help to draw the medical examiner's office, and now we've got a committee that's doing that study, and they're actually actively working on that right now. So we do need to get an architect hired, a firm hired, and then they'll take a look at what all the needs are for a medical examiner's office. And certainly the medical examiner architect is going to be specific to that they're going to have done that kind of work. We wouldn't just get an architect to go out and draw a medical examiner's office.
Right.
So, and we had some apply that have actually. One of the firms actually has just finished up the one in Montgomery County, and I think they might have done the one in Collin County. And then there's another firm that also applied, and they've done medical examiners also. So that's what we're working through right now.
Maybe I'm naive saying this, but I would think that some of your biggest cheerleaders for this project would be the ME's office in Harris and Travis counties to help lighten their loads.
Well, and I think that would be accurate. I don't think we've gotten any resistance from either. I mean, it cost us a good bit of money, to send bodies there. And then I think, I've talked to some detectives who have been on the force in the past, and they told me that when there was a suspected crime committed, someone died in, the detectives would go to, whether it's Travis County or several years ago, it would have been in Bexar County, wherever the medical examiner, where the body was being autopsied, those police force would go down there to watch the autopsy, to be there to verify so they could testify in court. And I'm assuming that probably still happens. So those are the kind of things. I mean, I know that the cities, I think, have been supportive. Both have been supportive of, a local medical examiner's office.
Yes.
I mean, certainly our JPs, it will relieve their load, because in that medical examiner's office we'll have a death investigator who will be trained in investigation of deaths, so that we'll try to make the right decisions first about how that body's going to be handled, and then if it needs to be autopsied, then certainly it will go to the examiner and they'll autopsy. We've been really fortunate with the JPs we currently have. I mean, one was a death investigator with sheriff's office, another was a police officer, and so we've got some folks who had some experience when they go out there and they kind of know what they're looking for. So
Right.
we've been fortunate in that regard. But I think having a dedicated death investigator is going to be a huge benefit.
Sure. So before we wrap up that particular topic, do you have a goal of when you'd like the doors to open? And also, where this is going to be located, correct?
We are closing on the property that it'll be located. I think it's the 6th. It's
Okay.
we thought we were going to get it closed this past week, and attorneys were found glitches that need to be fixed, and so that's.
But by the time people hear this, hopefully that'll be taken care of.
Yes, we should have that property owned by the county, and we'll be moving forward with certainly the architectural. I mean, we should have the architect chosen and working forward, trying to get the design drawn.
Good deal. Let's move on to broadband, because I know that's something that has been a concern of yours and the rest of the commissioners on how to ensure that reliable broadband is extended out into the county, because there are areas that don't have that reliability, and even businesses as well. And you guys commissioned a survey, but talk to me about the status of that broadband feasibility study.
Yeah, so, just a little bit of background. I mean, I'm on the Council of Governments, and before we even realized that what the real need for broadband was, the Council of Governments managed to get a grant and begin to lay a line through the 7 counties, around the 7 counties. So we'd been working on broadband for a long time, but COVID made us all aware of the need, because when everybody went home and we're working from home, there was a huge need for higher speed internet service. And so, I mean, that made everybody aware of it, and fortunately, it sounds like there's going to be money available. What we did on the court, we looked at spending some ARPA money on broadband. The problem was we didn't know. I mean, we had difficulty trying to come up with an RFQ to get a consulting firm to help us work through it, because I didn't know what we were looking for.
Right.
And I mean, we had a couple people that are somewhat knowledgeable, but I mean, we're looking for faster speed internet at the lowest cost. I mean, but I'm not sure how you write all it. So, but anyway, we had good folks that actually drew that up, and we got a consulting firm. And our goal was, of course, to find out really what was the need outside the city limits is really where we focused. And there were maps by the federal government and state that showed that we were like, I think the number's like 95% covered out there. Well, that doesn't put us very high on the list. If that were accurate, that does not put us very high on the list of getting anything.
Right.
And so that was part of what we wanted this consultant to do, was try to look at really what is out there. I mean, what does it look like out in the county? And in fact, are those maps correct or not? They found that they're not. They've looked at the speed out there, and we are lacking out there. So with this consulting firm, my hope is that we'll be able to let them help convince the state where this $3.3 billion is going to come from, that the maps that they currently think are accurate are not accurate, so that we can qualify for more money to try to get a higher speed out in the county.
Did the consultant find that the maps were a little bit off or way off?
They looked like they showed us a map that it had like a dot on it that showed that was the only spot in Brazos County that really wasn't covered well. And then they show us the map that they came up with, and there's a whole lot outside the city limits that's not covered. So yes, it's drastically different.
And I'm sure you hear from constituents from time to time that there's an issue.
Sure, we do.
So I was skimming some of the slides from the presentation that I think you and the commissioners received, and it said 7% of households don't have a home broadband. 65% of them said they have no good broadband option at their home. And You also, and I don't think it was intended as I understand, but you also learned a little bit about the quality of cell coverage.
We did. I mean, and of course, I live outside the city limits. I live, out on the east side, and I've got terrible cell phone service, and I actually switched in the last 4 months because I thought, well, this is just terrible, and I switched to another carrier and found that it was even worse than from what I left.
No.
And so, cell phone service is terrible around here, and I mean, they all tell you, well, we're building towers, we're going to have better service and all, but it just never happens, So my hope would be, and our consultants said, because they recognize that, and that's what the biggest complaint was with cell phone service, that potentially there might be some grant funds out there that we might help the cell phone carriers to be able to cover the county better.
Yeah.
I don't know that. I mean, that really wasn't part of the study. It just popped up out there, and the consultants told us that they felt like there may be money that we could help, to get better cell phone service. We're certainly going to explore that.
So at the time you and I are having this discussion, what are the next steps, the action items for the court and the county as it relates to trying to facilitate improvement and securing funds for getting better broadband and better cell phone coverage?
Okay, so if we didn't have any rules we had to follow,
right,
which we do, then I would be going right back to those consultants and asking them, okay, so what is the next step? And I think the next step is we've got to be able to take those maps and convince whoever, I'm not sure who it is with the state, that the maps the state has, are not correct. These are accurate maps, and this is where we need to be looking at. Mm-hmm. And then I'm not even sure that the state knows how to implement $3 billion and how you increase. I know we haven't known, but I'm hoping these consultants can help us a bunch in trying to figure out how we can best do that. One of the things they said is that some of that money may be available to the private sector, and it may be that we do an RFQ to try to determine who can best serve those needs, and then we support, whether it's just letters or whatever, we help push those ideas to the state of these carriers can help Brazos County with our needs for broadband, and then maybe get some of that money that's going to be available. They did tell us, the consultants told us, and I don't remember if you've got the slides there, you can probably see it. I think it was like $77 million to get fiber. Not actually, I don't think to every house out there, but at least get it to to the front of the houses, and then the homeowners would then have to extend that last mile, I think is what they call it.
I see.
So $77 million is a lot of money. And fiber is the best way for broadband, for internet service, but it's really expensive. I don't think we'll be able to access that kind of money, but we're gonna do our best to try to go after it. The problem is, though, that we wrote the RFQ really for the project that they gave us. Now we need to add to that because we didn't know what we were going to get out of it. And so I've talked with the purchasing agent. Do you think we can extend that RFQ that we've already done and then charge them or ask them to do these next steps without having to go out for an RFQ again?
Right.
I mean, that's the kind of thing that you run into in government, is that sometimes things just don't work as fast as you in the private sector they would.
Right.
But my hope is that we can do that, and we can reach back out to the consultants. They'll be willing, and I think it's just a matter of whether we can make that work with the state law.
Sure. Do I understand correctly that residents and businesses out in the county who are struggling, at least from a cell coverage standpoint, can sort of take matters into their own hands somewhat and communicate their conditions to the FCC? Is that correct?
Yeah, they made us aware that there is a web, I guess it's a web page, a URL that you can actually do a speed test on. It's FCC, And I think the more people that access that thing and do that speed test, it lets the FCC know what our speeds actually are around here. So I think we're going to have that on our webpage. I don't know where else they may be able to access that, and it's probably too long for me to try to.
I think it's probably a good bet if you go to fcc.gov and maybe do a search for speed test. You probably end up in the right place.
I bet you're right.
Yeah, fcc.gov. Try that and search speed test. With our remaining time, I wonder if we could talk about voting locations, because that's been another bit of business in front of the commissioners and certainly a topic of discussion in the community for a while. And I believe you guys heard from an independent committee with voting center recommendations, both for early voting locations and election day locations. And undoubtedly, I think the most notable recommendation was to make the Memorial Student Center at Texas A&M University a polling location during early voting and election day. That was the recommendation. So how did you feel about what was proposed?
I mean, I think it's a good proposal. I mean, even during the time, we caught a lot of flack from young folks who felt like it should have been at the MSC, and we had changed it over to City Hall, the new City Hall, which really isn't that far from the MSC. And then we helped provide bus transportation from the MSC back and forth during the voting locations, so that a student had every opportunity to go vote. I felt like even by doing that with the transportation side of it, that gave citizens, just general citizens out there, there's better parking over at the City Hall, and it's easier to access than the MSC is for the general citizen. And then by giving that transportation over there, it gave the students a way to get there very easily. But I'm okay with us. That's what the recommendation is, to go back to the MSC, and I'm fine with that. It's been used a long time, so I'm fine with it going back over there. And I think it was 6 locations per commissioner precinct, and so we should have plenty of spots that people can go vote, and certainly because we're central voting, you can go to any voting location and vote. You don't have to go back to your home location. And that's what gives, anybody, if they happen to be out on campus and if MSC is convenient, they can go there and vote. But there's plenty of other places to go vote.
That has been a game changer.
It really has. I mean, when that became available, Karen McQueen, of course, was the county clerk, and she was in charge of elections. And I went to her and told her, we need to try to see if we can't get that. They weren't opening it up to just everybody. You had to apply for it, and she agreed. I mean, we all agreed that's really, to have to go back to worry about where you live and what that one precinct that you can go vote at, having the ability to just go anywhere it is.
And so the idea of operating 24 voting centers, that's at least the proposal, that takes a lot of people and a lot of trained people, and it's not just a matter of opening the doors. I mean, there's a lot that goes into that. I know that's a challenge.
It is, and I mean, it's been that's been part of the challenge in the past, is getting enough workers. I mean, it's really, as Trudy, our elections administrator, has said, a lot of the folks who work those are retired, so they've got some age on them, and working those 12-hour days are pretty tough on them. I mean, my suggestion to her, hour-wise, as far as early voting, was we probably ought to go back to the 8 to 5 for the first week. That gives people an opportunity to vote. Then we'll have the weekend, and then maybe do the 7 to 7. That last week of early voting to give anybody, if they happen to can't get off their job from 8 to 5 to go vote, well, then that gives you the opportunity to go before or after work. And then certainly election day is going to be 7 to 7.
And I guess there would be some cost increases associated with with the proposed plan that was put in front of you?
Yes, there's more voting locations. Hopefully, we'll be able to get the staffing hired to be able to handle all those. But yes, there'll be more cost.
Gotcha. So, Judge, with the last couple of minutes we have together, anything that you would like to pass along in terms of what your constituents should be looking and listening for, or maybe how they can track the actions of their county government a little easier?
Well, I mean, it really kind of happened at COVID, when we began to broadcast on Facebook, the commissioner meetings. We really hadn't ever done that before. We would post them after the fact. But when COVID came along, it really had that. Maybe that's the good thing about COVID, if there's any really good, is it kind of changed the way a lot of folks do business. And I think that is a benefit too, because you don't have to come down there to the court to actually see what's going on kind of in real time. You can watch it on a computer. So those are things that the community can, if they're interested in whether it's a particular item or if they just want to watch, that it's available and they can see it in really real time.
Right. Really appreciate you coming in here. Brazos County Judge Duane Peters, thanks so much for your time.
Thank you for inviting me, Jay. I appreciate that.
Let's do it again.
Okay. Sounds good.
Since our interview, Judge Peters and the Brazos County Commissioners Court have made progress on a couple of items we discussed. Now, first of all, an architect was hired to design the future medical examiner's office that will be located on 11 acres along East 29th Street in Bryan. So maybe you can picture this. It's between St. Joseph Health Regional Hospital and Bryan High School. Now, they also approved a list of proposed voting locations throughout the county. That includes the Memorial Student Center on the Texas A&M campus, both as an early voting location and as an election day location. So in case you want to view the entire list of early voting and election day vote centers, you can do that right now at brazosvotes.org. That's brazosvotes.org. This is for the November general election. And by the way, early voting will run October the 23rd through November the 3rd. And then Election Day will be Tuesday, November 7th. Brazos Matters is a production of Aggieland's Public Radio, 90.9 KAMU-FM, a member of Texas A&M University's Division of Marketing and Communications. Our show is engineered and edited by Matt Dittman. You can learn more about us and check out all the Brazos Matters interview archives at kamu.tamu.edu/radio. I'm Jay Sokol. Thanks so much for listening, and thank you for supporting KAMU.